All right, let's dive into something that's, well, it's kind of weird when you really think about it. Why is Europe, a continent with all the money, talent, and history in the world, basically a non-player in big consumer tech? It's a huge mystery, and today we're going to figure it out. So let's start with a big question. Who actually runs our digital lives? The platforms and tools we use every single day. And one of the simplest ways to see the answer is to just look at where we all spend our time online. The data, well, it tells a pretty shocking story. Okay, so look at this list. What do you see? It's just a sea of American flags, right? Google, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, it's all American. You might spot a Russian or a South Korean site in there, but look really close. Where are the European flags? In the top 20 most visited websites on Earth, there's not a single one. Not one. And it goes way beyond just websites, doesn't it? I mean, think about your day. The operating system on your phone, the apps you use to chat with your friends, the shows you stream at night. We are living in a digital world that was overwhelmingly built in the United States and now, more and more, in Asia. And this is where things get really strange. This is the central paradox. Because when you look at Europe on paper, it has every single thing it needs to be a global tech leader. It should be a titan, not a digital ghost town. I mean, just tick off the boxes with me, right? It's got some of the best universities on the planet pumping out brilliant engineers and scientists. It pours money into R&D. We're talking over 380 billion euros last year. It builds some of the most complex machines in the world, like Airbus jets and BMWs. And hey, let's not forget, the World Wide Web itself was literally invented at CERN, right there in Switzerland. So, with all of that going for it, why hasn't Europe produced its own Apple or Google or Amazon? You've got 450 million people, a massive economy, and yet the digital giants are just not there. And the scale of how much they're missing is just mind-boggling. Get a load of this number, $13 trillion. That's what just seven U.S. tech companies were worth combined in 2024. And to put that into perspective, that is almost the same as the entire economic output of the four biggest economies in Europe combined: Germany, the UK, France, and Italy. It's absolutely insane. So what on earth is going on here? All right, so let's put on our detective hats. How did this happen? Well, it turns out there are pretty much four main culprits behind Europe's tech troubles. Culprit number one, and this is a big one, fragmentation. Think about it. If you're a startup in America, boom, you have instant access to this massive unified market. Over 330 million people, one language, one set of federal laws. But a startup in, say, Portugal? From day one, you're staring at 27 different countries, 24 official languages, and a crazy quilt of different legal and tax systems. And don't just take my word for it. This quote from Daniel Armour, who's the CFO of a European company, just nails it. He says it's incredibly hard to scale a business when you have to jump through all those different national hoops. And there's a perfect poster child for this problem. Remember Uber's attempt to conquer Europe? It was a complete disaster. It was a textbook case of hitting a regulatory brick wall. It wasn't one smooth launch, it was dozens of tiny, painful launches, each with its own legal battles, taxi protests, and sometimes outright bans. That kind of fragmentation doesn't just slow you down, it can stop you dead in your tracks. Okay, culprit number two. This one's all about culture and mindset. In Silicon Valley, the motto is basically move fast and break things. Innovate now, ask for permission later. And if you fail, that's a badge of honor. It means you learned something. In Europe, the whole philosophy is flipped. It's about protecting the consumer, regulating first, and valuing stability over risky disruption. It's just a much, much more cautious environment. And you hear this frustration from people on the inside. This quote from a Swedish venture capitalist, man, he does not pull any punches. He basically says that European investors are more like accountants. They play it safe. They're not visionaries willing to make those huge, risky bets that could create the next Google. And look, this isn't just some vague cultural feeling. The money tells the story. That brings us to culprit number three, the funding gap. The U.S. invests 3.5 times more into venture capital as a share of its economy than the EU does. That is a massive difference. It means less cash for ambitious founders and less fuel in the tank for explosive growth. So you've got a fragmented market, a culture that's scared of risk, and not enough money to go around. what do you think happens next? Well, you get culprit number 4, a massive brain drain. Europe's best and brightest often just leave. Ever hear of the huge American company Snowflake? Its founders were French. And get this, over the last 10 years, the share of top European science grads who stay abroad after they finish studying has just skyrocketed. And that leaves a huge talent vacuum back home. Okay, so the picture looks pretty bleak, right? But hold on. Europe hasn't just thrown in the towel. Instead of trying and failing to copy Silicon Valley, it's starting to play a totally different game. One where it might actually have the upper hand.
And the new strategy is actually pretty clever. It boils down to this. If you can't build the playground, you can still write all the rules for everyone who's playing in it. It's a strategic pivot from being an innovator to being the world's chief regulator.
There's actually a name for this whole phenomenon, and it's called the Brussels effect. The idea is simple. Because the EU market is so huge and valuable, big global companies often decide it's just easier to adopt Europe's strict rules everywhere in the world, rather than making different versions of their products. So, without even trying, Brussels ends up setting the global standard. And you've seen this happen over and over again, right? Think about GDPR, Europe's big data privacy law. It basically became the blueprint for the whole world. Then came the Digital Markets Act, which is forcing giants like Apple and Google to change how their app stores work. And now, the big one, the AI Act, the world's first real attempt to put guardrails on artificial intelligence. Europe is shaping the tech future. Just not by building it. Which leaves us with this one huge final question. In the 21st century, in a world that's being completely remade by technology, is it enough to just be the referee, or do you actually have to be in the game, building things, to truly shape what comes next? Europe has placed its bet. Now we just have to see if being the world's rule maker is enough to stay a superpower in a future it didn't create.